Welcome to Lost Girl Therapy. So, to answer this question, yes, when I have an episode, I tend to have all of my symptoms, but I have them at a much quicker rate. I also have a bunch more symptoms that would not occur in a typical flare up. So, for instance, my most recent episode that was very significant, and it was triggered because I had gotten blood in the morning and I had to fast, which I haven't done in like years. Basically, what ended up happening was because I was fasting and then I got blood, I missed my window for eating. And I came home and I basically ate immediately and felt totally fine. And then when I went to go take a shower, I also felt fine. But the thing about me is standing for long periods of time tend to get dicey. So the fact that I had already exacerbated my body by fasting, missing my window of eating, getting blood drawn, and then kind of playing catch up was like the perfect storm. So as I was getting ready in the bathroom, I started to feel kind of like the weakness in my legs, especially in the front of my shins. And then it went away. So I thought I was in the clear. But on my walk to the subway, that's when I started getting the kind of like pressure in my chest as well as the blurriness in my eyes. And my eyes are a pretty significant tell for me if I can see things clearly or if they're kind of blurry. It almost feels like somebody puts film over my eyes, or if I'm seeing dots. By the time that I got to the subway and I knew like, okay, you need to sit down, I was seated on the subway, and that's when I started getting really nauseous and kind of those like impulse, like your body's reactions that you simply just can't control. So difficulty swallowing, feeling like waves of nausea, like I was going to throw up immediately. That's when I brought up my chill pill from Amazon, that little thing that I just like squeeze. And that's really good because it helps me alleviate my anxious response. Like there's something about the pulsing that helps just steady my body's response to these. It's kind of like a timer for me. So I basically start navigating it as like, if I can hold on to this thing and get through a few minutes, we're going to be okay. But as I was coming out of the subway, the stairs did a number on my heart. And the moment that I was like out of the subway, I was like, okay, we basically have X amount of time before this gets very bad. On my walk from the subway to my family member's house, which is like less than 3 blocks, I was pretty much in the state of, okay, you're going to like fall on the street. And that's mainly because like at that point I cannot feel my legs and I can't feel my arms, and my vision isn't tunnel vision yet, but it's enough for me to be concerned that like I need to sit down. When I got into their building and I got into the elevator, the lights in the elevator made me start to see spots. So by the time that I got into their apartment, I was kind of getting into the state of like, okay, we have the perfect storm going. Like I've already escalated my heart rate. I can't feel anything in my body and I'm already having difficulty swallowing / focusing. Like the brain fog comes on really strong. And in that case, what I actually did was just sit down, elevate my feet and chug a glass of water with salt in it. And that seemed to help for 20 minutes. It wasn't until I bent down to pick something up off the floor that I just messed everything up. So I had bent down to pick something up and I was seated. And when I came back up, that elevation of heart rate, like that simple motion of just bending down, basically like I knew like I was going to pass out. Then I made it to the bed and where I laid horizontal, elevated my legs. And from there, I was basically in this state of just like, will I or won't I pass out for probably about 30 to 40 minutes. My heart rate was dipping really, really low. I was also having difficulty like keeping any food down. Like trying to eat was hard. But the really annoying part about these episodes is that because my body's going through so much stuff at once, eating becomes really important for me. I do not know if this is a thing for everybody else, but basically what happens is when I'm on the verge of passing out, I need to stabilize my blood sugar. But the problem is that like my throat feels like I can't swallow and I'm super nauseous. So trying to get anything into my body is just a struggle in general. And on this particular episode, I had taken a few bites, so I had elevated my head and kind of like sat up to just not choke, basically. And in the probably 1 minute that I had sat mildly up, my heart rate skyrocketed. And that's where I went into full body shakes. And the shaking is not something that I get in a normal flare up. I will typically get like kind of like an unsteadiness in my hands. Like I'll often look at my hands to see if they are in a state where I need to be concerned. But this came on just full body shaking for the majority of, like, I would say probably 40 minutes to an hour and a half. It's not an ideal experience, but when the shaking happens, it's kind of, the thing is for me, it's almost easier to process because I'm fully conscious. Like the idea of like passing out, like being on my back horizontal and kind of just feeling like, oh, you're going to pass out. Like that's scarier for me. So when my heart rate escalates and I just start uncontrollably shaking, it's almost easier for me to navigate because I picture it as like my body just needs to work through this reaction. And there's only so long that my body can physically sustain that level of shaking. So some of my symptoms, like the majority of them, do all show up in an episode, but I won't typically get the extremes of it. And I really try not to get to the extremes. Like, to be perfectly honest, I completely forgot that I had given blood in the morning and like that would even have an effect on me because I just haven't needed to give blood and fast in years, like that combo. But I really tend to try not to push myself into any extremes of an episode. So like if I take a shower, I won't blow dry my hair afterwards because I just can't do both things. If I work out, I will not go take a shower immediately afterwards because I have to give my body time to acclimate back to like a neutral state. So I do a lot of things to keep myself in the level, the space of balance, in order to make sure that I'm not escalating. Because if I escalate and I'm out in public, or if I escalate and I'm on my way somewhere, that's where I can really end up in a space of like physical danger for myself. Because if I'm on the verge of passing out, we have a problem.